Hey guys, Mike's Gettin Greasy Garage, and working on my dad's C4 Corvette for him again. Several videos on the channel about this, and today we're going to do front wheel bearings because these ones flop around. You know, it's hard to see holding the camera and me trying to do it at the same time, but they're shot, move all over the place. I mean, 40-year-old car with, I think there's 100,000 miles on it. But anyway, these use a conventional bearing hub, like more modern stuff, which I like. We got the TRQ brand. I've had good luck with this brand so far, which is tough to say nowadays when parts are so garbage. Now, I did see actual bearing kits to where you can press all this apart, put a new bearing in it, press it back together, but for the price of these, I don't believe it's worth all the extra effort. So if that's something that you want to do, then you can look up that route. But this car is an 85. This is the part number here. Both same for each side. We're doing both sides. Anyway, first thing I'm going to do is get the wheel off both sides. And it's pretty simple. Just take the rotors off, or calipers off, rotors off, and then there's 4 bolts that hold this to the spindle. So first thing I'm going to do is get the wheels off. I'm not going to put you through the pain of watching me take lug nuts off, and bring it back when we're at the next step. Alright guys, well, I got the wheels off of both sides. I'm only going to show you doing one side because it's exactly the same on the opposite side. So the next thing is to pull the caliper off. Yes, we've got these Brembo fakies on here. They actually look pretty good and they've stayed on. So the caliper has 2 bolts, one on each, or top and bottom on each side. I'm not going to show you how to take them off or anything because this is not a brake episode. So get the caliper off, and then the rotors simply slide off of the center hub. So I'll get this part and bring you guys back for the next step. Alright, well, here we are. Got all the brakes off, the rotors off. Again, the rotor just slips off. You got 4 bolts in this flange. They're through bolts, so they have nuts on the backside. Everything's pretty easy to get to. So yeah, you just pull these 4 bolts out, 2 on top, 2 on bottom, and then we'll see how much of a pain. Some of these can be a pain to get out of the spindle, but we won't know until we go with this one. So I'll go ahead and get these 4 bolts out, and then we'll come back for the next stage. Alright guys, well, as you can see, got it off. Just bolts into this spindle here, no big deal. Take the 4 nuts off the back, and you'll find that when you go to take this off, this one popped right off, but the bolts won't slide out. So I got to play with that and figure out which way allows me to get the bolts out. But other than that, I'll get that figured out. And then what I like to do on anything aluminum, where the piece going back in here is steel, because you have dissimilar metals, I just put a light coat of grease on the aluminum where the steel touches, just to prevent any funky corrosion. So I'll get everything switched out. I'll get the bolts switched out and get the grease on there, and on to the next step. Alright, so as I was talking about earlier, because the back part of this is steel and this is aluminum, I like to just put a little bit of just a light coat of grease on there. Just dissimilar metals. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. I'll just wipe the excess out with my finger. Like I say, just slowing down any corrosion. That's all we're doing. You can use anti-seize. I don't like anti-seize because as soon as you touch it, you get it everywhere. You know, kind of like grease, but not as bad. So that's done. I did find you got a hole in your, I'll show you here, the front flange. So you can rotate. I got trying to do this one-handed. Anyway, you can rotate this hole around to line up with where the bolts go through. So I'll go ahead and get all the bolts through and get it hung up there. Alright guys, well, it's on there now. There's a torque spec for these 4 bolts and nuts that go all the way through back here. Make sure to look that up. I'm not going to give you the torque spec because it only applies to the car that I'm working on. So that's all torqued. Next, I can put the rotor on, caliper bracket, and of course put the brakes back together and everything. But this isn't a brake video, so I'm not going to show that. Again, just a light film of grease is all I put in. You don't have to do that. That's just something that I do. But that's it. That's all there is to replacing your bearing hub or front wheel bearings or spindle hub or whatever name you want to call this thing. So, hope this helps somebody out there. It's really not a complicated job. It is also not a job that you need a lift for. You can do this with a floor jack and a pair of jack stands in your driveway. I recommend doing both sides at once or at the same time because, you know, bearings, one side wears the same as the other side. So when I did all the prior work to the rear suspension and the other videos, we also did the rear bearing hubs to those. This front was getting worn enough that you'd actually notice it driving down the road. It felt like sloppy steering. And all the ball joints and tie rod ends and all that stuff were perfectly fine in this car. So, you know, if you want to try to diagnose this, just put it up on the jack stand, wheel off the ground, have somebody move the wheel up and down, you know, like this, top and bottom, and just watch, and you'll be able to see it. If it's the rotor's moving around in there, that's a pretty good idea that's what it is. These hubs are not horribly expensive. Like I said, it was cheaper for me in my mind just to replace the whole unit rather than to do the bearings. And I do have a hydraulic press if I decided to go that route. But anyway, again, hope this helps somebody that is working on one of these C4 Corvettes. You know, they're still, even though they're made 84 to 96, are still considered pretty much the best handling Corvette ever made. GM put millions and millions of dollars into the suspension of these and came up with a design that even, you know, this much later, it's 2025, this car was made in 85, and this thing still handles like it's on rails. So anyway, that's enough out of me for now. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the support for the channel. Welcome to the new subscribers. And we'll catch you in the next one. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. I keep a pretty good eye on that. And I do try my best to answer questions as soon as I see them pop up. All right, guys, I'm out of here.